Yeah, but you see, this is not a situation of bureaucracy slowing down thing.
Oh, okay.
This is more troubling to me than that, because the bureaucracy will come in after the law is implemented, right? But the public authorities law, right, clearly lays out appointment, all of these things, right? And I am responsible for many of the amendments to get it in there. Appointments and responsibilities and procedures of the board of all public authorities. The appointment and responsibilities of chief executive officers of public authorities, public authority financial management requirements, public authorities personnel management requirements, right? Responsibilities of cabinet and chief officers in relation to public authorities. All of this is spelled out. And many of what is going on in these big projects is in contradiction of these. Because let's take the example of the cruise pier. How the public authorities bill and the procurement law does similar things. You know. The procurement law lays out the Central Procurement Office and Public Procurement Committee, which is the one they haven't set up, right? The procedures, methods, and limits, right? It also tells us the responsibilities of the procurement committee, the roles and functions of the cabinet, right? The roles and responsibilities of the chief officer in the ministry, right? Role of the Minister of Finance, who it comes under, role of cabinet, all spelled out in schedules. Meetings of the Public Procurement Committee, how they're supposed to happen, Schedule 3, how the minutes are supposed to be kept, Constitution of the Public Procurement Committee in Schedule 3, Schedule 4, the responsibilities of the Public Procurement Committee, Schedule 2, Director of Central Procurement Office, his duties and responsibilities, Schedule 1, Principles of Procurement. The law requires a code of conduct for the Procurement Committee, not yet developed that I'm aware of. I haven't seen it. So when a government passes this legislation, they can say, but we're doing all the right legislation to ensure honesty and integrity and all the principles of good governance. But when the law languishes, right, as the standards in public health law for 4 years and it's not commenced, when the procurement law languishes for 2 years, and although it is commenced, it is not in effect because the committee that effects it is not in place. When the public authorities bill, because remember now this is a good one because they brought in certain sections of this, right, and left out the sections to do with remuneration of public authorities, staff, etc., etc. But all of these lays out, and the way and I'm not a lawyer, but the way I interpret this legislation, these pieces of legislation, and what these pieces of legislation require in the handling of a big project like the pier. First of all, you would expect that the Port Authority Board would be the one to whom the cruise industry would be complaining that the tenders are inadequate, etc., 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 and the board would send a recommendation up to the ministry. We get in these complaints, maybe we need to look at building a pier, right? And the minister should consider that, maybe meet with the cruise industry himself, meet with the tender operators, etc., and try to find out what all the issues are and what the real problem. One of the things that we tend to do in this country is we have ready-made solutions that we campaign on as part of a manifesto. And by darn, we are going to find a problem to put the solution on because we promised the people we were going to do this. But so the government decides, okay, yes, we believe a pier is justified, etc., etc. So the government takes a policy position that we are going to build a pier in Georgetown. That policy directive, right, in the interest of the public, is sent down to the board of the Port Authority. The board of the Port Authority then is the body that should be responsible for the implementation of that policy. with oversight from the chief officer and oversight from the minister responsible through his chief officer, right? And they develop it, they find the best way to fund it, etc., right? And they make those decisions. The checks and balances, the monitoring is the role of the ministry, right? To make sure, well, they're now using gold pipes, right? So it's going to cost $500 million. They can use galvanized pipes. Yeah, they will rust in 2 years, but we can replace them, right? That's the kind of oversight that they should be. But the actual awarding of contracts and the selection of who the contractors should be the purview of the board in compliance and in concert with the procurement legislation and the law, the public authorities law that gives them the authority to do so. What we have now is a mix-up, a rundown, a fish rundown. Everything in the kitchen in it. Everybody in the kitchen is involved in it, right? And who is going to have oversight? It's very difficult for you to have objective oversight over something that you were involved in the development of.
Was it a tentative law? You can't be a judge in your own cause?
Exactly.
Okay.
So those are, and I just think that the public needs to be aware that while the government did a good thing 4 years ago in promoting this legislation and passing it into law, the government is not doing such a good job in seeing that it's implemented and following the provisions of the law. And what's the purpose of having legislation if you're not going to follow it?
Enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have our news break, Mr. Miller. And when we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Again, thank you, sir, for sharing with us. Those who listen, 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
NASA will be bringing its Science on a Sphere educational program to Cayman for the first time during the Caribbean Transitional Energy Conference at the Kimpton later this month. Science on a Sphere will be open to conference attendees throughout the event, with local schools also being invited to attend the exhibition. The Science on a Sphere exhibition will have limited access available to local schools in Cayman during the conference on September 13th through the 14th. Schools interested in attending the exhibition can register their interest by contacting Ashani at tower.com.ky. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. India's Supreme Court has dismissed a case against an actress over a movie scene that a Muslim group had argued was blasphemous. Priya Varia is seen winking during a song in the video, which has gone viral in India this year. The accuser said winking and giggling in a sacred song that refers to the Prophet Muhammad's wife was an act of blasphemy. The actress said that the complainants had misunderstood the song. At least 7 people had been killed and dozens injured as a lorry crashed head-on into a Greyhound bus in the U.S. The collision happened on Thursday on a highway near a town in New Mexico. Officials say the death toll is likely to rise. State police say 49 people were on board the bus at the time. And Usain Bolt makes his professional football debut in Australia in a 6-1 preseason friendly win. The 32-year-old former sprinter was drafted into the Central Coast Mariners attack with 20 minutes left to play, and with the outcome already beyond doubt. The 8-time Olympic gold medalist had 7 touches of the ball and came close to getting on the end of a cross towards the end of the match, but failed to score against a Central Coast select side. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Watch out for great mobile value and exciting free gifts from Flow this summer. The Samsung Galaxy A8 is yours for as low as $43.25 a month, and you can enjoy 25 gigabytes of data, 2,000 texts, and minutes on a Flow postpaid mobile value plan. Sign up and have even more fun with free summer gifts from Flow, like air travel vouchers, movie tickets, sound systems, and more. Share your summer experiences with Flow. Visit discoverflow.ky for more. Terms and conditions apply. Watch out, summer. Flow postpaid mobile plans are sizzling.
The Kirk Freeport Clearance Center is now open. Kirk Freeport needs to make space for new season merchandise and is offering clearance discount pricing on a wide range of china, crystal, jewelry, watches, and accessories in a brand new clearance store. Located in the Town Center Plaza next to Burger King in downtown Georgetown, new stock will be added all the time, giving you a brand new clearance store to shop every week. The Kirk Freeport Clearance Store is open in Georgetown now. Outrageous discounts with new stock all the time. Get down early and often to avoid missing out.
Are you ready to pace yourself? Sunday, September the 23rd on West Bay Road at the Public Beach. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman's 7th Annual Delano Hislop Memorial Journey for Life 15-mile walk run. Register today and do your part to help raise awareness for prostate and colon cancer and also raise funds to help support victims and survivors in the Cayman Islands. Registration fee is only $25. For more information, visit www.lionsgcmpacce.com or call 917-7223. The Delano Hislop Memorial Journey for Life 15-mile walk run. Sunday, September the 23rd on West Bay Road at the Public Beach. The Cayman Islands Civil Service Association members are asked to note that the final day of school bag supplies and distribution is Friday, August 31st from 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. If you did not get a bag and have been inquiring about how to get one, this is your last opportunity to do so. Please remember to bring a copy of your pay slip showing your $5 deduction. That's CICSA members' last day to pick up backpacks. This Friday from 3:30 p.m. till 6 p.m. at the CICSA office, 2nd floor, Hospital Road Plaza.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, excellent company of D. Ezra Miller, Honorable D. Ezra Miller, Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Hey, thank you, sir, for sharing with us. And with great respect and prayer, I trust that not just the members of the Legislative Assembly, but all the, I almost want to say entourage, but I don't want people to interpret that improperly. My prayer is that everybody has a safe trip, an enjoyable time. Go and feast and fast on the Brack, because it's a wonderful place. Come back and safely as well. So you and every member elected across all 19 constituencies and all the attendant personnel, have a safe trip, man, when you go up.
Yeah, no, well, we're a little bit concerned because the whole opposition is flying on the same flight. But
I have a cowboy if you want.
There used to be a security issue with that before, but I guess between here and the Brack it should be okay.
There you go. But you're a good team, so we'll see.
No, we are going to be there, and we're going to take part. I mean, you don't often hear of the House of Commons meeting in Ireland or Scotland, right, or Wales, and you don't hear the House of Congress go in Hawaii. But the government chose to go to the Brack to have a meeting. We're going to go along and do our best to represent the people.
Maybe I invite you to go to the district town halls in years to come.
I would be interested just to see whether they're going to want to go north side of East End when they come back.
There you go. We do have a caller on line, sir, as we're having a conversation in the studio, Honorable Ezra Miller. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Sterling, how are you? Afternoon, Mr. Miller.
I'm fine as silk and tough as brown cotton.
Okay. Someone once said, fine as sifted flour, fine it'll blow right away.
Right, yeah, I won't be that fine. Reduces my toughness.
Well, I hear you guys going to the Brack, my hometown, so I hope I'm going to behave myself.
Oh, well, I'm known for my good behavior.
That is debatable, so let's not go there.
I'm not even getting in the middle of that at all.
Okay.
At least I'm careful.
Okay. Listen, I just turned on. I heard you. I didn't know that this program was going to be on, to be honest, because I've been kind of busy doing some other things. But if I could say a few things about that dock?
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I personally don't think that the dock, I don't care who gets in power or who proposed it, it'll never happen, but I agree. Now, at the beginning I didn't, but now I think that you should, I'll find that what do you call it, the
referendum petition.
Referendum petition. Because do you realize how long this thing been going on? I mean,
that's part of the reason that we think the people should make a decision. You know?
I mean, the thing about it from the government in 2009, it goes that far back.
Well, it goes even further back than that, because it was in the 80s. Remember, we were talking about putting moorings out there, and there was talk about putting in a cruise ship pier instead of moorings from that time. And remember, we had bought all them anchors that were stored down in the dock to create moorings, and then the cruise ship industry rejected it because they wanted government to accept a whole pile of liability and stuff.
Yeah, it goes back too far. And the past government and the present government and the present government, they have used the public purse. I don't know what they're thinking about, because the same environmental impact study that they did 15, 20 years ago is the same thing that they require now, and they keep repeating it, and paying this $500,000 to get it.
Mm-hmm.
In
they've had 3-4 designs too.
Yeah, well, in 2013, I was hired as a consultant with a local consortium of businessmen, headed by a very prominent Cayman. They were all Caymanians.
Mm-hmm.
Headed by a very prominent Caymanian businessman, who all he wanted to do was to get the thing passed by government, build a dock, and then turn it over to government as his legacy. And I mean, the amount of cash that went into to even that far, because we had a local architectural firm doing up.
Mm-hmm.
I met with the powers that be myself. It was suggested that we move the cargo dock further down the bay, and this is what the architects did. We presented, as a matter of fact, we hired a company. I don't remember the name now, but there were 3 guys who had done this all over the place, Dubai and all over the place. We had 3 guys out of Miami and a lady out of the Houston office. We did a presentation to the cabinet. Me, the architect, and the head people of this new company. And they point blank turned it down, and up to now they haven't written to anybody to say why they turned it down. But what I'm trying to get at is that they suggested, the government that is, of the day, who are still there now, they suggested that we do a presentation with the cargo dock moved down to where the old curio shop was.
Yes.
Or
close to Arthur State.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a whole thing.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it.
But the bad part about that was that it took 3 weeks to get that appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have thought that all the cabinet would have been notified. In the middle of the presentation, one particular government official, who at the time was a minister, thank God he didn't get back in, he gets up and says, I just remember, I got to do something. Now, you're preparing for something for 3 weeks, and you're going to get up in the middle of that with all these people there and say something like that. I mean, it just showed that they had no... They, I don't know. Think about it.
You know, when you see that happen, you know it wasn't going anywhere.
Exactly. When I was taking one of the guys to the airport, he's, don't worry, Mr. Tibbetts, they're not going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, so what do they want? My only opinion, but since that I've changed my mind. I don't think we need that dock anymore. As a matter of fact,
all the information I have that we can get, because the government will not share that information with us. I see in the media that they've shared it with the Chamber of Commerce and other people. We have asked on at least 4 occasions, and nothing has been forthcoming. I have information that suggests there is no need for the dock. And one of the things that we got to be careful of as I said earlier, is when we want to do these things, we got to make sure we're solving the right problem. Otherwise, we may create other problems.
Yeah, I think they just want to do it because it's something that they want to do in their government to leave their stamp.
Yeah.
But then I mean, look at Falmouth. They spent all this money down there, and now it's almost like a derelict place.
Yep.
My point is that, and I said it, I don't think this thing will ever happen. And I am convinced is that the powers that be in government have not reached to the stage where not the Cayman Islands are populous, but them themselves, they haven't reached the stage that they can get enough out of it. I hate to say that, but it's true.
But you heard me talking about all the other laws that we have on the books which is not being applied to these projects.
Yeah,
They're supposed to safeguard all those things, you know.
I know, but it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's right.
It's just a fallacy that, I mean.
Yeah.
I went to all the meetings up at Miller Hall, and the stupidness that some people got up and talked about, I mean, Jesus. It make you wonder, if people know in school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, prominent people too.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think we need to do is we need to concentrate more on the cruise ship passenger and what their impression is of Cayman, so that they will continue to recommend Cayman as a cruise port and stop worrying about catering to the fancies of the cruise industry itself, whose only interest is extracting as much as they can. I mean, look at what they do to these poor tour operators. They got one tour operator, he may be getting $10 this year. They encourage somebody else to come in and they will pay them $9. So they get it for 1 year. Then somebody else comes in and they decide, we'll pay $8 if we get the business. So everybody's in a race to the bottom, right? And they're extracting all the money. But they're not changing. They're not lowering the price for the tour on the cruise ship, That's going up. But they're forcing our people to charge less.
Yeah, you're quite right,
And we should be, like I said, trying to enhance the experience of the cruise passenger and trying to improve the ability of Caymanians to make a reasonable income from the industry.
And then you see, they promised that Georgetown would be redone, and oh God, my brother and a bunch of them promised that. And what have they done? Little or nothing. I go there every Thursday to a meeting, and I have to see all these people. And it's total chaos.
Yeah. And I was told today that one of the things that the cruise ships have been promised, if they will invest in this port, is that we are going to build this highway from what's now, I think, is Borden Road. The same area you were talking about down there a while ago, right? With that overpass over Eastern Avenue that comes down onto the Estella Tibbetts Highway to get these people out from the dock. Now, that is going to cost millions of dollars, right? And the likelihood of that happening, is unrealistic.
In your lifetime,
Exactly.
All right.
But thank you so much for listening.
I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All the best, sir. Have a good weekend. Mr. Miller, we have a couple of the callers.
Yes, sure.
Welcome. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Yeah, it's a short suggestion. The Seafarers Association, they have a wealth of knowledge from captains of big ships all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get some of them on your show? Maybe 3 or 4 of them get...
I think Sterling has had a couple of them on here. They were the ones that proposed that it be put in South Sound, right?
Red Bay area?
In the Red Bay area, yeah. But the master mariners that I talk to don't support what they're doing in Georgetown. They'll tell you, to start with, the ships are lined up the wrong way. They're broadside onto the prevailing wind. And a cruise ship of that magnitude exposed broadside to 15, 20, 24 knot northeast wind is kind of hard to handle.
But I appreciate it again, so we'll reach out again to those who wish to share, and we will be having others.
You notice that when they're out in what we call the stream, out there to be serviced by the tenders, they're not broadside onto the wind. They always position themselves bow to the wind. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We have another caller. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Good evening, Dwayne.
What's up now?
Yeah, well, I'm a concerned Caymanian about this dock business in Georgetown.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm now like Mr. Miller would usually say, I'm no expert, but I walked these beaches here from West Bay to Georgetown when I was 5, 6 years old, and I'm 76 now. I saw every time the tide changed, the current changed, I should say, they moved the sand this way and they put it that way, and they go the next couple of months, they take it from there and they bring it back and they put it the next way. Now, I am certain if they put that dock in Georgetown and they dredges down there, I don't know how many feet they're going to dredge. I heard 40 feet. I don't know how I don't know.
Well, we suspect that they'll have the dredge probably to a depth of 60 feet because them bigger ships are going to be drawing, I would think, more than 40 feet, more likely 55, 60 feet.
Well, okay, I'm certain it's going to change the tide. It's going to change the flow of water on 7 Mile Beach. And like somebody was saying before, if you get the dock and you not got no beach, you not got anything.
Exactly.
Now, I don't agree about the not having a dock. I think we need a dock. I think we need a dock for quite a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to try to go into all of that. But we don't need it in Georgetown. That's, I think, the last place you need to put a dock in Georgetown. You got 18 feet of water by the dock there as it is. And when you got a heavy northwester, you got the sea coming up across the road, going up across the road. Now, if you put 40 feet of water there or 60 feet, you know what's going to happen? I mean, it don't take a genius to know if you got a glass of water and you throw it on the ground, it can only go so far. If you got a bucket and throw it, it go quite a lot further. Now, like I say, I've sailed for 10.5 years myself, and I've seen a lot of things with currents and tides and things like that. But I think we really need a dock. It's a pity that they didn't go along with Mr. Hulston and the gentleman from East End and put the dock in Red Bay. That is where the dock should have went. You would have had protection from the reef. They wasn't going to move it. They was going to put down the steam thing. There's hole in the dock there now on the outside the reef and keep the reef intact. There was only opening the channel. That could have took 5 ships, 6 ships up inside there. I'm sorry that they didn't do that. I don't know why. Well, I know why. I tell you what, I spoke to one of the owners. They got a house up there, and I said to him, I'm not going to call his name. I said, boss, me and you friends for a long time, and you know that Red Bay is the best place for the dock. He looked at me, he said, yeah, Ken, it's the best place for the dock. But my house is up there. I looked at him, I said, tell me something, boss. You're going to look me in my face and tell me about your house. If you want to put your house on the moon, you could do it. What happened to the people who can't get a house? Who don't have one, who can't get one? You're not thinking about those people? And anyway, since that, he don't speak to me no more, you know. Talk to me no more. So I don't
Some friend.
But that's the kind of way it is. But what I just wanted to say about the docking out here, it's going to change the tide on 7 Mile Beach for sure. If it don't, I'll be very, very, very disappointed. I tell you that. Because I walk the beach a lot. From time I can remember. And I've seen tide change there up and down so often. If you put that dock in Georgetown, it's got to change it. It's going to change the flow of the tide.
Yes, sir. Well,
so that's all I wanted to say. But
thanks for calling on.
Thank you for listening to and for sharing, man. I hope you have a great weekend. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if they can still do it in Red Bay, but if they could, that would be the best place to do it. Now they said North Sound. North Sound is a disaster. You see, when the ship is out in Georgetown, all of that stuff coming out of the stacks is dropping in the ocean, going out there. If they put them in North Sound, the trade wind is from that way. All of that stuff coming off the stacks is going to drop into Georgetown.
Yep.
So not North Sound either. But I think I don't know if they can do it in Red Bay again, but that would be the perfect place. But I think we need a dock. We really need a dock. That's for many different reasons. I could go into it. I'm not going to bother with all of that. Thank you all.
Fair enough, sir. All the best to you, man. Thanks.
But you see, one of the because I've spent the last week and a half digging up in the business case for this dock, going through the EIA and recommendations, reading the EAB and the EIA. And one of the things that is missing from the business case are 2 things that I believe makes the business case valueless. First of all, what we need to decide is what is our carrying capacity. How many passengers can we properly accommodate in the Cayman Islands? How many passengers do we have the facilities to properly cater for? That should be the starting point. That's ignored. The business case predicts from 2013 forward a 1% reduction in cruise passengers per year to justify the investment in the port. Now, the complete opposite has happened, because according to the statistics that the government publishes, we have had somewhere in that 5-year period anywhere between 15 to 20% increase. So, again, makes it kind of useless, the business case. The other thing that the business case seems to not give proper cognizance to, which is required by the procurement legislation, by the way, alternatives. The only alternative it seems to deal with is don't do nothing, right? That's not an alternative, right? But what the business case should have done is, once we establish we can handle 1.6, 1.7 million passengers a year, I don't know what it would be, but how do we get and maintain that point? And what is the most effective, cost-effective, and efficient way to achieve that? It should have an analysis of, can we improve the tenders, either in numbers and quality, to get to that point? Can we handle that many passengers adequately by tenders? What do we need to do on shore to make sure that we can enhance the passengers? One of the impediments, and remember now that the EI itself says that building the piers is not going to speed up the discharge of passengers.
Yes, I mean, many people believe that people will come off faster if we have a pier.
The EIA says no.
Okay.
Because that is predicted on on things that happens inside the ship, both getting off and coming on. Would it be better for us to treat cruise passengers like we treat our airline passengers? When they're ready to go back on the ship, there's a big building down there on the dock, just like we have a departure lounge. And you have a number of entry gates, which takes care of the security clearance and the identification. So once you're inside that building, you are a cruise ship passenger and you've been cleared for customs and security. Because what other people don't understand is that they talk about all this shopping that they buy. But I discovered this recently. Apparently the cruise ships don't allow them to bring alcohol back onto the ships, because they want to or if they bring it on, they confiscate it until they get an off or something, because they want them to consume their alcohol. Makes sense from their point of view. But the security clearance is there. And then we have, to the tenders, 2 or 3 or 4 gates. And if you're going on ship A, you go through gate A. If you're going on ship C, you go through gate C. You know? So that you don't have these long lines. And sometimes I go down there on the dock and behind the Royal Water and just sit on the porch and observe what's going on. And you'll see 2 tenders or 3 tenders lined up on the pier, but they're only loading 1 tender. And there's somebody from the ship there seems to be putting people on 1 person at a time, when all of that would have been done when you come to these gates at the front. Just like when you go to check in on the airline, you go to different airlines, right? You're all not going through the same piece. Because what we're doing now is everybody's going, not clearing anything on land. They're getting on the tender. Then when they go across to the ship, I was informed today that this is the process that most of them do. You have to use your room key, right? Stick it in a slot, and there's a picture identification, etc., to ensure that it is you, that you belong to that ship, right? Then you have to go through the X-ray machine for security and all that. Then you have to go through the customs clearance coming onto the ship, right? And that's only 1 person at a time, and there's only 1 machine and 1 gate, right? So that is what slows people down. Whereas if we were doing that on shore, and then putting them not out in the hot sun, but in a building with a roof, and we could may not necessarily need to air condition it, but we could put these misting fans and stuff up, and then you could have a nice band like Chuck and Barry down to playing music and entertain the people, you know. And you might even want to give them some free water, right, or some, you know. But it's that in itself, while they're waiting to get on the tender, is an experience, right? So that the person leaves here with the best possible impression we can of Cayman. If we just put the two cruise pairs out there, are we still going to have to do all this other stuff too to make it effective? Right? Then it's not better to do that stuff first and find out whether we can do it by tenders without the huge investment? Because the example I used on TV the other night was this. Just imagine you standing on the wall in front of Emsley Memorial Church. And there are four big ships out there, all of which have more than 5,000. But just say they're 5,000, the average is 5,000. And you have 4 streams of people, right?
One for each ship, like?
Right, maybe 8 streams because some of them have 2 doors, but the same on the dock, so you're coming out. In order to get them off faster, this is what we can do. We have 8 streams of people leading into one stream, right, coming to 4th Street.
Invading the army?
What are you going to do then? You can't turn left because somebody on your left side. You can't turn right because somebody on your left side. You can't slow down because somebody's pushing you from the back. What are you going to do?
20,000 people.
Exactly.
Population 60,000?
In a space of an hour, 2 hours. Right? What we have now, right, and I was quite surprised because I was one of those who thought, well, part of the answer to this is bigger tenders, bring more people. But I was informed today that that's not, the perfect amount is around 200, right? Because you don't want the person who steps onto the tender first to have to wait 4 to 5 minutes for number 500 to get on board, right? You want a 15-minute, 20 minutes, and you can bring 100 people in, and the boat's gone, another boat pull up.
And the trip from the ship to the shore isn't that long.
No, but that in itself could be another experience, right? You could have TVs that play Caymanian music, talk about the island, etc., etc., etc. A civics lesson, some history lessons.
Preview some of the attractions.
Exactly.
In case you haven't seen it, this is what the sandbar, this is what Turtle Farm, the Botanic Park, Pedro, so to speak. Here's some history and some of our people.
Yep. So it becomes an experience, and equally so, going back, there's a nice video thanking the people for being here. We appreciate, you consider coming back for as a stayover tourist. These are the kind of hotel facilities we are. This is the range of room. We could use it for those kind of opportunities.
A captive audience, huh?
Exactly. But we're not looking at how to improve what we have. We believe that the solution is to plunk 2 piers down in the harbour and solve all the problems.
Mr. Miller, with great respect, I understand the time. Could we ask whether now or for future discussion? Many people have asked, and I have deliberately not tried to venture in a sort of opinion. There is a move by men in the community for a petition asking for a referendum. We're asking you as not just a parliamentarian, but as an opposition leader. Go on the premise that it reaches a certain number that triggers the petition. We understand. Then it goes to the cabinet, and they're going to word it, and then it comes to LA almost as a formality, and then the petition is going to be becomes a referendum, and the people vote. Now, in the outcome that one, the people is opposed to it, or are they in favor of it, what then potentially will be the consequence of the outcome of a referendum?
I'm encouraging the government to vote to hold a referendum, because if the government has the kind of support that they want, they should welcome this motion, because they will be able to demonstrate that the majority of the people want this support. Failing that, there's a group that have started a petition for a referendum, a people-initiated referendum. We will support them on that and help them get signatures, and we will go district to district and have public meetings to talk about it and to give both. Well, we can give the side that we think, and the government is free. Well, you see, they started last week with a big about $4,000 for a full page colored ad in the campus, right? Which said nothing. I don't know. Which said nothing. right? I think that's what it was during election time, if I remember correctly, why I couldn't afford any, because that would be more than 50% of what I spent. But the reason why we would prefer a government-sponsored referendum is because the threshold is lower for both, against and for. 50% of those who vote is the threshold for the government referendum, which is as it should be, because the government should be allowed to govern. The people-initiated referendum requires 50% plus one of registered voters, so the bar is somewhat higher, And part of that is so that you can't, the opposition or special interest groups in the community can't stop government projects as easy as they do. Now, if the people vote for the dock, then let's build a dock. If the people say, no, we don't want the dock, then that's it. That should be the end of it. And we don't want to hear no more about a dock for the next 10 years. And we want to develop the tenders, and we give them a moratorium to get things done, and we give them some time frames to get it done,
Okay. Now, there are a number, the final question we listened to. We heard that, the Deputy Governor has informed, one of the citizens, but is there anything official or that may be expected from your end that where the government, through the Deputy Governor's office or the acting governor, to say civil servants, you're free to vote one way or the other, sign a petition?
Remember that Mr. Ebanks, when he was a Deputy Governor, issued a policy position on civil servants signing referendums or petitions in all forms. And as far as I know, that is still the policy. And if I recall, that allowed the rank and file civil service in particular to sign petitions, particularly if they were not involved in whatever matter was that the petition was about. But it didn't. But I think it it restricted. I don't think it eliminated, but I think it restricted top management. If I recall, with department heads,
chief officers,
CEO, chief officers, etc., because they would be at the policy level, they're making a decision.
And the only reason why I ask that is that so far a number of individuals, not civil
but
servants,
I understand from Mr. Mario Rankin that he has spoken to the current governor,
the acting governor.
Well, I don't need to put on no movie. He's the governor.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right? I don't use that term. You're either a governor or you're not a governor, right? The current governor has said that civil servants can sign the petition asking for a referendum.
Yeah, Mr. Rankin listed up publicly.
Because that is not the signature on the referendum is not a signature for or against the port.
A signature on the petition.
It's a signature on the petition for the referendum.
Yes,
it's the government to hold a referendum to give you the opportunity to exercise your democratic right to vote yes for the referendum for the cruise ship or no against the cruise port.
Right. Okay.
That's the point at which you have to make the decision on which way you want to do.
Yeah.
What we're saying now is we want you, the government, to give you the opportunity to exercise that democratic right in being part of the decision-making process.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Always grateful, sir, to the parliamentarians and to you, sir, for coming on board. Have a very, very relaxing, rewarding.
The rest of the day as well. I'm not going to be so relaxing. I still got about 100 pages in these reports on the port to read, and then I have to prepare my contribution to the debate. And then I have the education one I have to start working on. So it's a lot of work between now and Tuesday to be prepared to debate the legislation that needs to be debated, and also I have two motions on the floor, one on education and a referendum. So I not only have to move them, I have to wind them up. So
there you go. And you'll be wound up.
That's a minimum of 8 hours.
There you go, sir. All right, to our listeners, enjoy your weekend. Monday is the first Monday of the month. That means for us on Talk Today, it's our monthly Mental Health Matters. But please join Mr. Orton on the morning for the record. Until then, be blessed.